Okay, let's run.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
It's a quest. It's a quest for fun.
Well, The Rock says, why don't we just cut right to the chase?
Okay, now he wants to get together. Well, he wants to talk.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
It's showtime, folks!
What are you?
I'm...
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to And I Quote, the weekly show where we introduce you to content creators of all shapes and sizes that join us from any and all corners of the nerd universe. We find out more about them and we take your questions. I am your host, Ryan of Nerd Culture, and our guest on this episode is indie comic writer extraordinaire Caleb Palmquist. Caleb, welcome to the program. How are you, kind sir?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you very much for being here. Now, if you have any questions for Caleb as we go throughout the course of this episode, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Be more than happy to take them as they come in. And if this is your first time here, welcome. And don't forget to like and share this with all of your closest friends. With that being said, Caleb, how were you introduced to the world of comics? Where and when did it all start for you?
Probably when I was a kid, my grandma gave me some X-Men comics that she got at the mall. And like a grab bag of stuff like New Mutants, X-Men, things like that. It was mostly X-Men comics. So as I was growing up, I was like super into X-Men. Cyclops is one of my favorite characters. And then as I grew older, I started to read different comics, obviously not just superhero comics. And one of the big influences on me early on that got me thinking about writing comics was Y: The Last Man by Brian K. Vaughan, which is really super cool. And then another big influence was, this is very stereotypical, but is Scott Pilgrim was a big one for me. So yeah, I mean, it kind of started like it does for anybody. You pick up a comic and it just seems really cool. Those early X-Men comics that I got, I must have read them 1,000 times, just over and over. When you're a kid, you don't know that like pull lists aren't something you think about when you're, 6 years old. But yeah, that's about how I got into it.
Excellent choice, if I do say so myself, when it comes to the X-Men. If you see what I just did there, what would you say are some of your favorite comic writers or artists, past or present?
Well, I would say Brian K. Vaughan is definitely a big influence of mine. He's one of my favorites, and then I also really like Cullen Bunn, which is a obvious choice. He's very prolific, but The Sixth Gun is one of my favorites, and then well, I mean, there's a lot of writers that I could point to, and people have a lot of opinions, especially about Marvel and DC writers. But I would definitely say that, those two are definitely up there. Yeah, I could go on and list a whole bunch of writers, but Brian K. Vaughan is definitely a huge influence. And, Saga, of course, is mind-blowing, and that has been a big influence on me too.
Yeah, Y: The Last Man. I haven't read all of it, but I've read one of the paperbacks, and man, that story is, oh my goodness, talk about post-apocalyptic to the extreme.
Yeah,
but I respect that about it, and it's a heck of a story, and it's a heck of a artwork is good too. So do not get me wrong. What would you say are some of your favorite comic book based movies or TV series, past or present?
Comic book based movies or TV series. Well, I think that the one that's been coming out lately that I think is like sort of unquestionably to me the best comic book adaptation is Invincible. I mean, it's a I think that's just like a phenomenal show. And then in terms of other ones, I liked Lock and Key at first. I think it went off the rails a little bit, but I certainly liked the first season a lot. And but it's interesting because when you're talking about adaptations, so many things are comic book adaptations now. You don't even realize. I mean, there's stuff that's like adapted from obscure comics where it feels like these studios are just like snatching up IPs. There was like a rom-com movie with Owen Wilson from a couple years ago that turns out was uh, based on a web comic from even longer ago, and uh, so um, yeah, but Invincible is my top number one for sure.
That's fair. That's fair. Absolutely. Absolutely. What would you say are some of the rewards about being an indie comic book writer?
Oh, sure. I mean, as an indie comic book writer, I get complete control of what I do. I am, and on things like Kickstarter, I get to connect directly with the people who are reading my books. Um, and it's very gratifying to see stuff come to light and not to have to ask permission of anyone to be creative and do what I want to do.
Absolutely. Don't have someone hovering over you giving orders. Gee whiz. That's not always a good thing. On the other side of the fence, though, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges about being an indie comic book writer?
Oh, sure. Biggest challenges. I would say that having to do everything, the fact that I don't, have a really like a publisher to be doing any of the work of like finding artists, promoting. I don't, also fulfillment, just like shipping books out and figuring out how to store all my books in my house. For a while, I had a storage unit, and then I moved into a bigger place, but um, all that stuff can really be a hassle, especially when I'd like to just be doing the creative part all the time, but the business part actually takes up more time than the creative part.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. What would you say are some of the positives and or negatives of using the Kickstarter?
Well, Kickstarter is amazing. I mean, Kickstarter is one of the, if it wasn't for Kickstarter, we wouldn't have the ability that we have today to put projects like comic books out into the world totally independently. I mean, you could always do that. You could always make stuff independently, but the idea that like there's this platform that is so popular and well known and trusted that people can go and pre-order comics from people like me, so that I can make them, is incredible. And that's not something that um, that's certainly not something I take for granted. And yeah, I mean, as far as cons of using Kickstarter, that's like, I don't know. It's a lot of work, certainly. Um, and I'm pretty bound to the platform in terms of, there's a lot of organic growth on Kickstarter and people are comfortable with Kickstarter. And so trying to move to a different platform is fairly risky, but I don't have any complaints about Kickstarter. So I don't have any problem staying there.
All right, I got you. They didn't pay you to say that, did they? No, I'm just kidding.
They did not pay me to say that. In fact, Kickstarter doesn't pay me at all. But
No.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. And for those of you who are just joining us, this is, and I quote, with our special guest, Caleb Palmquist, indie comic book writer here on the show. Don't forget to like and share this episode with all your closest friends. If you have any questions for Caleb, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. We're more than happy to take those as they come in. Whether you're joining us live or on the replay, we appreciate you being here. Now, we do have something I'd like to share with you, Caleb, and for you who may be watching or listening to this. We have this Space Monkey Knights Go. Now, I've heard of Teen Titans Go, and Teen Titans have gone to the movies a few times in their careers, but Space Monkey Knights Go. What exactly is this, and how did this all come about?
Sure. Okay. So Space Monkey Knights Go is a all ages Saturday morning cartoon style comic book about four monkeys who are sent out on a spaceship to the far reaches of the galaxy, And while they're sleeping in their cryopods, they're supposed to be downloading all of mankind's knowledge, but instead they just get information about King Arthur's knights, and they wake up on a distant planet believing themselves to be Knights of the Round Table and therefore become defenders of the galaxy. And it was inspired by Saturday morning cartoons of the 80s and 90s. And it was an idea that Dave Lentz, who's my co-creator on the book, came to me with. He's also the letterer on most of the comics that I do. He came to me with this idea and he asked me if I would write it. And so I worked with him to develop the idea, and then I wrote the script, and then we found Nick Torres, who is the artist, who I think is a perfect fit. It's a very fun, all ages book. And for people who are fans of my other work, hopefully you'll find the same level of like hard-hitting emotional beats, like even though, you know, just under the surface of the cute veneer is some heavy character work and emotional stuff.
Awesome stuff. Well, congratulations on that. I have a niece and a nephew that may like this book, so I'll have to turn them on to it the next time I see them. So there you go. Always good to cover a lot of different bases there. Now, this is going to be a flip side of the coin, something I'd like to share with you and the person who may be watching or listening to this. Holy cow. I've heard of Abe Lincoln Vampire Hunter, which never should have been made and never should have been written because Abe Lincoln was never a vampire hunter in his life, nor will he ever be. But whether he's in the life or the afterlife doesn't matter. But Unicorn Vampire Hunter, tell us a little bit about this and how this all came about.
Sure. So Unicorn Vampire Hunter is the comic book series that I created. That's probably the book that I'm most well known for. It is about a unicorn who hunts vampires with his horn. It is a fantasy fairy tale adventure book. Yeah, I came up with this idea about 12 years ago. Back before I even knew I was going to be making comics, it was just like a sort of a silly fairy tale idea that I came up with, wrote it down on some notebook paper. And then years later, when I started making comics, I was looking for another book to make. And I was like, well, why not do this story that I wrote a long time ago? And it turned out that people really connected with that because it's been my most successful book.
My goodness. A unicorn that hunts with its own horn to kill vampires. Hey, we all need a way to kill these things, right? Why not use a horn from a unicorn? You know, magical creatures got one horn. Yeah, anything's possible. That's cool stuff. It's very different. It's very different. It's very unique. So I'm going to give you and your creative team over there some bonus points for that. Goodness gracious. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Do you have a Kickstarter that's going on right now concerning this book?
Oh, yeah. Unicorn Vampire Hunter is on Kickstarter right now. If you go to Kickstarter and search Unicorn Vampire Hunter, you'll find it. And we've been very successful. This is collecting the whole first volume. So we've done the first 5 issues, and that's the whole first storyline, and that's all collected in this book. It's a huge book. It's like 200 pages long. And it got a bunch of different editions, and we funded in the first 3 days, I want to say, which was really exciting. And we're hitting some stretch goals now. So, yeah.
Wow. Congratulations on that. That is amazing. Amazing. It's amazing what you can do when you have a really good creative team behind you, putting this story together, and also the fans. The fans are very responsive to it. So congratulations on that. Looks like the Kickstarter is going swimmingly, or, you know, I guess, because I don't think unicorns swim, but I can say that anyway. Good. I mean, look, I saw the movie Legend with Tom Cruise, so, you know, it's like, okay, you can, if you touch that unicorn, though, it like ruins the magical landscape that it's in or something. I don't know. Mia Sarah was trying to touch it, you know, in the movie. I don't know. Have you seen that movie? Are you familiar with Legend?
No, I don't know the movie you're talking about.
You have no idea? Okay, so let me give you real quick here, a little bit of backstory. So Legend is a movie that I believe, and correct me for those of you who may be watching or listening to this if I'm wrong in the chat or in the comments, please correct me. I think it was Ridley Scott. He directed a film starring Tom Cruise, Mia Sarah, and Tim Curry. Tim Curry is in it. And it takes place, it's a fantasy movie, so it takes place in this magical land, and Tom Cruise is like an explorer. He's an adventurer type character, but he has a love interest in Mia Sarah, and he's trying to figure out, hey, how do I talk to this girl? How do I like start going out with her or whatever? and there's this magic unicorn who lives in the forest in this magical land. And I feel like one of the no pun intended, points of the story is that if she were to touch the unicorn, it would cause a chain reaction, which would potentially destroy the kingdom, I think. But also, Tim Curry plays evil in this movie. He plays, and his suit that he's wearing in this movie, it's in the shape of a devil. So Tim Curry, he's good at playing bad dudes. So it suits him, if you know what I mean. So it's a cheesy 80s fantasy adventure movie. That is what Legend is.
Okay.
So if you want to add that to your watch list, if you feel so inclined, because it does involve unicorns.
Sure. Yeah, I'll have to check it out for sure.
You can write that one down if you want. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it may have come out in 86, I want to say, 1986. Yeah, it's from the 80s. Yeah. So
right.
There you go. You'll find out more once you see the film.
Sure.
I'll just leave it at that. Sorry, when you mentioned the unicorn vampire, I'm thinking, okay, unicorns. One of the first things that came to my mind was Legend. I don't know why. It just happened. I have no idea. I don't know. Things could be a little strange and crazy on here, but hey, that's what we live for. So, gee whiz. Let's see here. What would you say are some of your favorite movies or TV series that have nothing to do with comic books?
Oh boy. Well, my favorite TV show of all time, hands down, is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. That it doesn't get better than that. So,
It's the city that loves you back. It's always sunny in Philadelphia. It really is. All right, good stuff. Good stuff. That's appreciate that. That was a good one there. Now, have there been any special memories for you from being at conventions, whether you were there as a vendor or there as an attendee?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I went to conventions for years before I went as a vendor, and I think meeting your heroes is always a bit of a mixed bag. Sometimes it can be really cool, and sometimes it can be very disappointing. But I think there were a few people that I met that I was very impressed by, who were also very nice. One of them was Stan Sakai, who created Usagi Yojimbo, and then of course Matt Fraction and Kelly Sue DeConnick are just like really gems of people. Super nice and super supportive. In fact, after I met Kelly Sue DeConnick, years ago, I got married, and it was like a superhero themed wedding. This is now I will say, this is maybe a little too personal. The marriage didn't last. We're still friends, but I have since remarried. Anyway, that's not important. We had a superhero themed wedding, and everyone was dressing up in superhero outfits. And my little niece, who at the time was about 4 years old, loved Captain Marvel. And I had seen on Kelly Sue DeConnick's Tumblr page that she had made a Captain Marvel dress for her daughter. And I sent her a message on Tumblr. This is when Tumblr was a cool thing people were doing. And I said, "Hey, Kelly Sue, I don't know if you remember me. We met at a convention. I saw that your daughter has this Captain Marvel dress. Do you have tips on how to make that? Because I know that you sewed that." And she responded to me, said not only did she remember me, but that her daughter had outgrown the dress, and she wasn't going to tell me how to make it. She was going to mail it to me. And she did. And my niece wore it at the wedding. We have pictures. It was phenomenal. So, yeah, that was pretty great.
Oh, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Sorry, the first marriage didn't last, but hey, a superhero-themed wedding is pretty darn cool.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was great, and no regrets. We're still friends, so it's all good.
That's a good. That's a positive to come out of something that may or may didn't work out at the time. Just out of curiosity, though, did you go as Superman at your wedding? Or who'd you go as?
No, I was Cyclops.
You were okay. Brought out the X-Men in you, and that's fine. With all due respect, you said it yourself. He's one of your favorite all-time, if not your favorite all-time character. So, all good. Scott Summers, and I'm assuming she went as Jean Grey.
No. She went as Spider-Man, or Spider-Woman rather.
I was gonna say.
She did not go as the character Spider-Woman. She went as like more of like a gender bent Peter Parker,
Hmm.
because Peter is her favorite character. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Got it.
Yep.
All good. All good. All right. Well, you kept it in the Marvel family. So, as a wise person would say to you during these proceedings, Excelsior. So,
Oh yeah. In fact, our a good friend of mine who is still a great friend of mine,
yes.
who came to my second wedding also.
Hmm.
But he was the officiant of the first wedding, and he dressed up um, as Stanley,
Stanley.
and he had this crazy makeup that took like 2 hours to put on. He looked just like Stanley, and he did the voice and everything. It was great.
Oh, that's just, man, that's just marvelous. Once again, we are talking with the incredible. See, there's another Marvel word for it, incredible. Caleb Palmquist, indie comic writer, on this episode of And I Quote. Don't forget to like and share this with all of your closest friends. If you have any questions for Caleb, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Whether you're joining us live on the replay, thank you so much for being here. We cannot do this without you. That is really cool. That is really cool. So I do want to let you know that this episode of what is known as And I Quote, and every episode of And I Quote, is indeed powered by our good friends over there at Poddex. Now, Poddex, this is really cool, are unique interview questions as well as episode starting prompts in the palm of your hand. So whether you are a new podcaster or existing broadcaster looking to have or looking to grow, looking to grow your audience or get more engagement, you're going to want to check out poddex.com. Use that code Ryan10, that's RYAN10, Ryan10, for 10% off your first order. Do not miss out on that. Poddex, there's some good people over there, and they're a lot of fun. Poddex wants to know, what do you keep on your desk or your workspace area that boosts your mood, Caleb?
Oh man, my desk or my workspace area. Let's see. I'm here in my desk or workspace area. What thing around here boosts my mood? That's a great question, and I think if I were to pick one thing, it'd be this one right here. That's a little Waluigi action for you. And this was Waluigi is my favorite Nintendo character, and I will forever be upset that he's not actually a playable character in Super Smash Bros. So there you go.
Yeah, that is a bummer. That is a bummer. Outside of the Mario universe, any other favorite video games?
Oh sure. I am a big fan of games like strategy games like Age of Empires and StarCraft. I play a lot, and then but I'm also a fan of like little retro style games. Lately, I've been playing a game called Kingdom, which is a side-scrolling tower defense like game. It's hard to describe, but it's super fun.
All right. Nothing wrong with some strategy or puzzling games there. Nothing wrong with that. What is the best thing to happen to you so far this year of 2023?
Oh, well, I got married. So that was
Hey!
yeah, I got married just about 5-6 weeks ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. So that was pretty great. And yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, congratulations to you and the missus. You found your queen of the throne, and you're living happily ever after. Good on you, man.
Thank you.
That's awesome. That is good stuff. 6 weeks, fresh as a daisy, this marriage is. Congratulations. That is amazing. We're very happy for you. So, what instantly makes you not like another person?
Oh boy, what instantly makes me not like another person? Well, I'll tell you the answer that anyone who follows me on Facebook or knows me in real life would chuckle at, which is that if you meet me and you don't know me and you call me buddy, I'm gonna be real upset about it. And I'm not gonna tell you that I'm upset about it because I'm not. I'm like too awkward to do that. But certainly, I think buddy sucks unless you're talking to like a 6-year-old. That's my personal opinion. Everyone's got their little pet peeves about names that they don't like to be called. But yeah, that would be the one for me.
There you go. I respect that. I respect that. Would you choose, or excuse me, would you choose a shorter life and be super rich, or a longer life, somewhat poor?
Somewhat poor. I mean, that's a hard question because there's a lot of other factors there. Like, am I somewhat poor, but I live like a nice life out in the countryside, where like I'm not like struggling and fearing for my life every day, then probably that one. But if it was like I'm going to be somewhat poor and also like I'm always sick and I can't pay my bills and I like am worried about my safety all the time, then yeah, of course I'm going to take the short life and be rich.
There you go. There you go. Now, when you're feeling sick or under the weather, what makes you feel better?
When I'm feeling sick or under the weather, hot tea. I love a good cup of tea. I'm a big tea guy. Um, and I love to just like get comfortable and have a cup of tea and read a book for sure.
There you go. What comic book character outside of your work would you like to see be adapted to the big or small screen, and why?
Oh man, what comic book character outside of my work would I like to see adapted? That is a great question. A lot of the like really famous characters that I know have already been adapted. I think that without getting too obscure on you, the one that I really want to see of mainstream characters is the Superior Spider-Man. I want to see Otto Octavius have his day as Spider-Man. That's one of my favorite Spider-Man arcs of the last like well, that might have come out more than 10 years ago. I don't know. That was getting old, man. I'm like, that just came out, but it did not just come out. Yeah, I would love to see Superior Spider-Man on the screen. I think that would be like a really fun story arc.
Interesting. Interesting. Could be, if that were to happen, could end up being amazing. Something like that. I don't know. Wasn't a character called that way back when in the comic book years? I don't know. I'm just speculating here. Maybe I'm wrong. But with some of the stories and characters you've helped create and put together, which one would you like to see adapted into a live action or animated series or movie, and why?
I mean, I think Unicorn Vampire Hunter already looks like a cartoon, and so I think it would make a great cartoon. Um, but I think that probably the one that I would, if I were to pick one series to make into a cartoon, it would be Space Monkey Nights Go, and that's because it really is inspired by cartoons, whereas Unicorn Vampire Hunter I wrote it to be a comic book, pure and simple. It's a comic book. I think that's the best format for it. If it ever gets adapted, that'll be great. But Space Monkey Nights Go was inspired by cartoons, and I think it would make a great, fun Saturday morning cartoon.
Sounds like a really good plan. What advice would you give to aspiring indie comic book writers out there?
Oh yeah. Okay, so creativity is democratized. That means we have the tools, we have the resources. You don't have to get published by a publisher. You don't have to ask anyone's permission. You just have to do the thing that you love to do. Tell the stories you want to tell. And look at what other people are doing. Don't go into it blind, but learn the tools that you have, like Kickstarter, like BackerKit, like the way social media and email lists can work, and just do it. Stay independent. That would be my biggest piece of advice. Don't sign your soul away to a company that doesn't care about you. Do it yourself.
Right on, man. Right on. Great piece of advice. Thank you for sharing that with us. And we hope you, who may be watching or listening to this, have enjoyed this episode of And I Quote. I want to thank our guest, Caleb Palmquist, for being here on And I Quote here on the Neuroculture channel. Caleb, thank you so much for being here. We greatly appreciate it, and you taking the time to share some things with us and about the characters, the story, some advice you would give to aspiring indie comic book writers out there, all that great stuff. Where can the person watching or listening to this follow you on social media to keep up with everything you got coming up? What do you got?
Well, you can follow me at Caleb Palmquist on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, but I often forget that those things exist for months at a time. So you might not get useful information there. The best way to follow me is to go to calebpalmquist.com or unicornvampirehunter.com. That's the same place. And there's a link there to follow my email list. And if you're on my newsletter list, then you'll get weekly emails with all the latest updates about my comics. That's the absolute best way to follow me. And if you follow me, there's tons of ways to get free stuff that I'm always giving out all the time. So check it out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here with us, Caleb. Do greatly appreciate it. I will talk to you in just one moment here. My name is Ryan of Neuroculture. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RyanRPM5. Also, you can check out Caleb's links and our links for everything we're doing here at Neuroculture located within the description of this episode and of this video. Whether you are watching it or you are listening to it, all those links are located in the description down below. So check it out. Follow Caleb. Follow everything that we're doing here at It's Neuroculture. We got so many things coming your way very soon. We're going to be on the road going to Comic Cons. We're going to be at Shore Leave in Hunt Valley, Maryland, July 7th through the 9th. And then we're going to be at GalaxyCon in Raleigh, North Carolina on July 28th through the 30th. It's going to be a lot of fun. Also, we got our movie anniversary watch-alongs are going to continue on here throughout the course of this year, 2023. Our next one will be on July the 12th. All of these are going to be held at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The links are already up on our YouTube channel and Facebook pages and our other social media channels, respectively. Next one on the list, July 12th, Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, the one and only film of that franchise that ever came out, because the sequels for me never really happened. They never happened. And then after that, we got The Mask of Zorro on July the 17th. And following that, the night after that, it's The Dark Knight turns 15. Oh my gosh. Can you believe it's been 15 years since The Dark Knight came out in theaters? Oh my goodness, is that going to be a lot of fun? A lot of great things coming your way very soon. So make sure you follow us on social media. Once again, thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring that notification bell so you get notified of when our new videos go up. And in the meantime, stay healthy, stay strong, stay safe. Remember, indie supports indie, and life is better when reading. Take a look.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics.
Sweet dreams they placed on me inside my mind. Chance my truth, twist the past, my memories are fading fast. Am I still missed? Who do you want me to be? Am I still missed?
Attention all sci-fi fans. We want to inform you about Shore Leave 43, the Baltimore region's largest fan-run science fiction convention. Travelers from every galaxy will find something special among the writing and science workshops, stargazing, and autograph sessions with some of your favorite actors. Don't miss the gaming sessions, and most of all, make time to spend with your fellow sci-fi fans. From the Star Trek universe, meet Star Trek Voyagers Robert Picardo and Robert Duncan McNeil. Chat with sci-fi legends Claudia Black and Ben Browder from Stargate SG-1 and Farscape. If you enjoy comedy with your sci-fi, then stop in to talk with Penny Johnson-Gerald and Peter Macon from The Orville. Also scheduled to appear are Aliana Huffman from Riverdale, Bonnie Gordon from Star Trek Prodigy, and from Battlestar Galactica, Grace Park and Aaron Douglas. Sci-fi and fantasy writers David Mack, Michael Jan Friedman, Keith R.A. DiCandido, Kelly Fitzpatrick, and Derek Tyler Attico, along with many others, will be giving workshops, signing books, and talking with fans. Performing on stage will be the Boogie Nights, as well as the comedy improv group Luna Sea. Shore Leave 43 opens July 7th to the 9th at the Delta Hotels in Hunt Valley, Maryland. For more details, check on their website, www.shore-leave.com.
Good morning. Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.